myths. Cool, awesome, and sometimes even morbid myths. Whether it's the Greek myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun, or the Aztec tale of Quetzalcoatl, the second sun, and their jaguar myth stuff. Or even this guy, Maui, who in one myth dies trying to conquer the goddess of death from
that surrounded her fun tunnel, crushed him to death.
That's a real myth. If you didn't know, myths were the original foundation of the world we see today. They brought people together. They traveled across generations, and they still teach us to this day. So my question is, to what extent has mythology impacted our modern day country's function socially and even our modern trends? Now, this is a pretty open-ended question, right? But let's break it down. One way to answer it would be mythology has a massive influence on culture and trends, media, art, and even sports. A second answer you could say is mythology influences how countries view themselves and each other. Belief in myths led to wars, alliances, and the formings of entire countries. Take Greek mythology, for example. According to writer Olivia Kleino, or whatever, of SHS News, Greek mythology has still shaped our language. Words we use every day come from the Latin roots tied to those myths, such as narcissism, echo, or even tantalize. Even what we call fiction carries history, and that's how deep these stories go. Throughout history, myths inspired art, such as Prometheus Bound, The Fall of Icarus, timeless, intricate works capturing human imagination. And then there's sports, the ultimate unifier, the Olympics, a celebration of strength, unity, competition. But ever wonder why it's called the Olympics? It goes all the way back to Rome and Greece, where athletes competed not just for glory, but for the gods. They believed games honored the divine, that they weren't just sports. They were sacred. Even now, that spirit lives on, i.e. the Paris Olympics 2024, I think, or 2020. Anyways, we just don't realize it's rooted in myth. Faith, a bringer of community and just people, but also a justification for war and slavery. No matter which side of faith we are on, myth was and is faith. I argue the roots. No matter what you believe or don't believe, faith reflects what humans are ultimately concerned with, cognitively, aesthetically, politically, and spiritually in these aspects, as humans are meaning-seeking creatures, and this leads them to create myths as a way to understand their existence and their place in the world. What a lot of past and modern scholars believe in fact, is that the defining factor that separates the savage civilizations to the civilized was myths, as they defined the savage counterparts' religion as myths and the civilized as just religion. Take that as you will. There are so many reasons why all this ties to your now, but think about this. If myths weren't a thing, if the past religions of our ancestors weren't a thing, how might have it affected our modern world? If there was no Greek myths, would there be a Greece today? If there would be, what would it be named? How big or how small would it have been? If there was no Aztec mythology, would we have any idea of the culture, the imagination of those people, of all the ancient civilizations, whether it be the Greeks or the Romans, Egyptians, or even the Chinese. It's given us lessons that we still follow today. Examples being Pandora's box and its lesson to show caution and heed warnings, or even Echo and Narcissus, who besides on who echoes are or what, also teaches us to be humble for ourselves. All these things affect us now, and that's why these stories have survived. No matter the audience from which century, it's still relevant to us now, to this day, and possibly even further if we allow it to. And this is why I believe myths have impacted how our modern day countries function socially and even our modern day trends.